How are you doing? I'm Rada from Little Crafters Boxes, and I have a very special guest with me today. This is Ruby from the RSPB. Say hello, Ruby.
Hi everyone. I hope everyone's having a fab World Oceans Day so far.
It is World Oceans Day today, isn't it? And that's why we're here today. We are celebrating World Oceans Day. Ruby is a very special guest today. She does lots and lots of work with the ocean and helping to. Well, actually, do you know what, Ruby? I won't talk. You tell us. Tell us what you do.
Yes, okay, fab. So, goodness, a whole wide variety of things. Probably a little bit too much because I'm a bit too busy all the time. So, from my job that I get paid to do, which is to help wildlife and a lot, especially seabirds and ocean life, with campaigning to make sure that there's more rules and regulations, so laws and policies to protect them. And then I also work as a marine mammal medic. So in my spare time, I go out and I get on my phone, I get little messages saying, oh, there's a seal or a dolphin or a whale in distress. Can you go out and see what's happening and see if you can rescue it? So sometimes on a Saturday, Sunday afternoon, I'll have a seal in my boot, taking it to a local seal sanctuary to make sure it gets rehabilitated and get back out to sea. I've even rescued a turtle at one point in the UK, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. And I also do a lot of voluntary work, such as beach cleans and organising that sort of community side of things. So a wide variety of stuff really. And I also love drawing and illustrating, and I know you guys do too. So turning that kind of love and passion for drawing into a way of spreading awareness as well. So that's kind of a bit of a roundup.
Brilliant. Wow. It sounds like you've got a really busy life, Ruby.
Yeah. Oh, and I
So I can
also
see lots of children are joining in. Go on, so
sorry,
sorry, I apologise.
just because you asked me to talk about it, I also go out on boats sometimes and do the odd wildlife survey, which is where you find out if there's enough animals in a certain area to make sure that their populations are staying nice and healthy, which, as we know, because the environment is in a bit of a bad state at the moment, isn't always the case. But anyway, I'll go on to that later.
Brilliant. Yeah, it sounds like you're really busy day to day. I can see lots of kids have joined us now. So say hello to everyone that's here today. And let us know if you can see and hear us okay. And if you're commenting today and you're interacting with us, let us know what your favourite sea creature is as well while Ruby's talking to us. And maybe she can tell us a bit about her experiences with those animals. Ruby, you were on a boat yesterday, weren't you?
I was indeed, yeah. I was out on it was a wildlife watching boat, and I was just making note of all the birds and seals that I could see, and I was also telling people a little bit about why the animals are there, but some facts about them. So a lot of the time when you're doing things like this, it's about spreading awareness and making people fall in love with nature as much as it is to find out if they're okay. Because I always think that so often we think that scientists and people out somewhere really, really remote are the people that are saving the world, but actually it's about spreading awareness. And I'm not sure if you guys have heard of the domino effect, which is if you tip one domino, the rest will fall. But it's actually a positive thing that if you tell someone about something that's happening to the world or something that needs to change, they'll tell someone else and they'll tell someone else. And eventually lots of people will know about it. So that's just as important. You know, you don't have to be in the Antarctic looking at whales. You can be telling your neighbour about how sea turtles are ingesting loads of plastic and how if we consume a bit less, it might help and benefit them. So there's a few things that you can do in your own lives, which I'll hopefully get onto a bit later as well.
That's brilliant. We've got lots of animals coming in. So, Ruby, do you have any experiences with dolphins, octopuses, seals? We know that you love the Lois is really happy that you're here talking about seals, she says. Stingrays, a black-tipped shark, sea crocodiles.
Oh,
Have you
incredible.
ever encountered any of those?
You guys have picked some amazing species, some of my favourite species. So let's start with a few of the first ones. Let me go up this chat to the first few animals I can see. Dolphin or octopus? So I've seen quite a few dolphins. Last year I lived on an island. It was actually this one you can see behind me, and which was in the middle of the sea. Very, very remote, and I lived in this little cottage, and I'd wake up sometimes and see dolphins just straight outside my window.
Where
And
on that island? Where is that in the world, Ruby?
So it's called Rathlin Island. You should definitely come and visit if you have a chance. And it's situated between Scotland and Ireland, like the island of Ireland. So it is an island in the middle of them, just in the middle of the sea. And so you get lots of amazing wildlife crossing by. And octopus, I used to do some work in an aquarium a few years ago, and it was a really good one that kind of took animals in that needed rescuing to take them back out into the wild. And I actually have hugged one, but I wouldn't recommend it. Its suckers can stick to you very, very tight, especially if it likes you, and it might take about half an hour to get it off. So yeah, stingray. I love stingrays. I've saw one out on a boat before, really clear water. I just saw it down at the bottom. Sometimes you get stingrays that can actually camouflage into the sandy bed, so you don't see that they're there until they start moving, and then you'll see them fly away. And, oh, the sand's moving. So it would be a dwarf puffer, so cute and small. Is that a type of puffin? Or maybe someone can educate me about that. I'm not entirely sure. Black-tipped shark. I went diving a few years ago and saw a black-tipped shark, and that was very exciting. Although I was with someone who was from South Africa at the time, where you get more dangerous sharks, and she didn't know exactly what it was and started panicking and swimming. And then I had to explain, don't worry, this is actually a really friendly one. And so we got back down into the water and started swimming with it again, obviously keeping a good distance, making sure it wasn't too scared. But yeah, and axolotls. I flipping love axolotls. They're great. I was reading a little book about them recently, which explained that if one of their arms or legs falls off, they can grow it back again, which I just think is the best skill, and I wish I had that ability. Pufferfish. That's, yeah, a pufferfish is perfect. I didn't know whether you meant a puffin or a pufferfish, but both of them I love. And we all love sharks, yes, we do. So yeah, keep them coming in. I'm loving all this animal love. It's fab.
Wow, you've got so much experience with so many different creatures, Ruby.
It's from just trying to put myself out there and all sorts of experiences. Not all of them official kind of work. A lot of them is volunteering. You'll find if you want to get into wildlife conservation or working in the environment or to help animals, to start off with, a lot of the time you'll do a lot of volunteering, which is amazing, but you just kind of have to do a lot of it to get to a place where you're working for it sometimes.
Yeah. So how old were you when you started doing this sort of work, Ruby?
Wow. So I know a lot of you guys already know about kind of what's happening to our natural world and that actually it's in trouble. But I only really kind of started to properly find this out for myself and get concerned about it when I was about 14, 15 years old. And so when I was 16, I started volunteering for a charity which ran litter picks and beach cleans. And so I signed myself up. It's called Surfers Against Sewage. And I started running beach cleans for them and started doing lots of campaigning work. And then from there, it just kicked off. I really, really wanted to go out and volunteer on a boat somewhere. So I applied to volunteer on a boat out in the Canary Islands, which is down beside Africa, actually. And I stayed out there for 2 months when I was only 18 years old. And I was surveying whales and dolphins. And do you know what? I actually haven't gone to, another thing I want to say is I've done lots of volunteering, lots of work experience, but because of a few family things that happened when I was a bit younger, a few not very nice things that happened, I didn't actually make it to uni when I was 18, like a lot of people do. So I found alternative routes to get lots of experience. And actually I'm going to uni next year for the first time when I'm 23. So another thing I'd love to say is that, you can get into all this amazing work not via the traditional routes. There's always opportunities out there. So if you feel like, oh, I didn't get the best mark on that test, or I didn't do this, or I didn't get into this, never let that dishearten you, because there's always another option. There's always another route to get to where you want to be. So yeah, there's
Thank you. So you've got a presentation to share with us today, haven't you, Ruby?
I do indeed. Yeah, I will get this up here now. Share my screen, and hopefully you guys can give me a thumbs up if you can see. We've
got a question coming while you're just doing that. What do you think about places like sea life? Do you prefer them in their natural habitat?
That's a great question. So personally, I do think, oh, just quick question from me. Can you see this okay? Yeah?
Yeah, don't worry, I'll sort that out while you're talking.
So yeah, I think that personally, you have a difference between aquariums that are just there to showcase, species and kind of that's about it. And I do have a problem with that. And it's the same with the zoos that just kind of want to get animals from the wild to make money out of them. And I disagree with that completely. But then there are some places, like the place I used to work, the Cornish Seal Sanctuary, that do amazing work. So although they might look like an aquarium, they have lots of seals, they actually take animals in to rehabilitate them and rescue them and make them better so they can go back into the wild again. So the aquarium I used to work in did a lot of that work. So occasionally you get animals that just can't make it. They're just a bit too ill and a bit too poorly to go back out. So they'll keep them in there to make their life longer and look after them in there. But ones that just do it for the money, I would definitely not agree with that. But you can actually find all of these things out on the internet. If you want to have a day out somewhere and you find somewhere, you can just look them up a little bit, and often it will tell you if there's a problem with the place you're going.
Brilliant. Thank you for that.
Right.
I'm going to stop talking for a minute while you kind of go through whatever it is that you're going to talk about today. I'm intrigued myself, so I'll be listening.
Fab. And if anyone has any questions, just message in the chat. I can't see the chat right now, but I will be told if there are, and I'll stop what I'm saying and answer them then. So threats to our marine habitat, gosh, there are so many. But first of all, I'd like to hear from you guys what you think is threatening our marine habitats at the moment. Just put it in the chat, and would it be all right if you called them out?
Yeah, of course. Any comments I see, I'll tell you. If you talk, so to give them a time to answer, and then I'll let you know what comments have come in. So, what threats do you guys think there are to marine habitats? Let us know in the comments.
Yeah, that'd be great, because we have all sorts of threats. We have stuff that happens right along our shores and our beaches, and stuff that happens right out in the ocean. And there's stuff that we do kind of firsthand, as in with what we consume and how we eat, and maybe the pollution we leave, and also things like climate change and the bigger, different threats. So there's all sorts of different ones. Are there any that have come into the chat so far?
Yeah.
Anyway.
We're seeing things like plastic pollution, rubbish pollution. Pollution's coming in a lot. Yeah, so they kind of get the gist of where you're going with this.
Yes, definitely. That is a big threat. I mean, and that's one that we're taught about a lot as one of the first threats. That's kind of what got me into volunteering in the environmental world in the first place. So, everything from plastic bottles to even fishing gear, which is actually made out of microplastic fragments. Everything is kind of that we are doing as humans at the minute is causing a bit of a negative impact, but it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, the way we feed ourselves and the way we live on this earth can be regenerative and can actually reverse what we call be nature positive to our environment. So there are so many solutions. Has anyone heard of seagrass, for example? Did you know that seagrass provides so many habitats to so many species? It draws down carbon out the atmosphere, making the atmosphere less hot and decreasing the threat of global warming. And we can also eat it. So there's a lot of technologies and nature-based solutions that look a bit like seagrass restoration. So there's all sorts of amazing positive things. And then also, you guys have all been talking about plastics and how that's a big threat. I have done a lot of work with disentangling seals and seabirds with my marine mammal medic work. So I've seen firsthand awful impacts that's had. But we also know, for example, a positive solution that could be is making materials out of not oil and not your typical plastic materials, but something that is biodegradable or compostable, or that can be reused again, or just that disintegrates into the natural environment. So there's all sorts of solutions to the threats facing our marine environment. And not all of them, like I was saying earlier, mean that we have to be these scientists out in the middle of nowhere. We can be. That would be amazing if you would love to do that. But so often it's just about starting a conversation, talking to your friend, talking to your family, your grandparents, anyone about what we can all do to make a difference. So what can we do? We can change our stuff in our own lives, like, for example, trying to buy less plastic from the shops. Simple actions such as getting a reusable bottle, which I know a lot of you probably already do, because the more young people I meet are actually better at this sort of stuff than a lot of adults that I meet. And actually, a very big problem is overfishing, and also what we use to fish. And if you reduce or eat none, that would allow the ocean a chance to recover. So I'm not saying, completely cut out your lives, but even if you just have, a few times a week where you eat it a bit less, or that will have a massively positive impact. Going out and doing beach cleans, not only does that get plastic directly away from our shores, but also sends a message to other people watching you do it that, oh yeah, maybe I should start caring about this as well. And if any of you have social media, which is a brilliant platform to communicate these issues, use that as well to tell people about how they can make a difference. So hopefully you guys are doing some of those things already, but if not, maybe World Oceans Day is the day that you start doing these things. And that brings me into the eco-anxiety circle. So often I feel, actually I'll explain what eco-anxiety is to start off with, because it's a bit of an unusual term, but hopefully some of you have heard of it before. Eco-anxiety is actually an official mental health term used to describe the feeling of dread that we, especially young people, feel when learning about the destruction of the natural world and all of the awful things that are happening to it. But I think there is a bit of an eco-anxiety circle that happens. So it's not all bad. When we find out what's wrong, which is the first part of the four-part circle, we feel incredibly sad and angry about it and don't really know what to do, don't really know where to put our frustrations. But you feel sad and angry, and then often you'll take action from that horrible feeling inside. And then once you've taken action, you'll often feel very empowered for doing so. And even once you've taken that step, you've gone on a beach clean, you've talked to your friend about what needs to change, you'll probably end up feeling sad and angry again about something else. And it'll probably keep happening. I've been talking about these issues relating to the threats to our seas for probably nearly 10 years now. And I'm always on this circle of eco-anxiety, of finding out another thing that's wrong with our planet and finding out another way I can help it. So it's caring about the environment. We should all care, but it's not all lows. It can be highs, and then it'll be lows again, and there'll be highs, and then lows again. And this is how I try to take positive actions in my life. So at the top here, you can see a few pictures. One of them on the left-hand side is of some seabirds and a seabird chick. And that was a few summers ago. I worked at a seabird centre where I would tell people all about the threats to seabirds and what we can do to protect them. And the biggest threat to seabirds is climate change. So I'm not sure if you guys know much about puffins and seabirds, but when they, in the wintertime, they live out at sea on top of the water. That's their home. And then in the summer, they fly to islands like Rathlin Island, where I used to live, and they make nests and they raise a chick. And to feed that chick, they have to go out to sea and come back again, quite a lot of miles. And sometimes, because of the warming seas, they'll have to travel further than they used to, because the fish that they eat are going deeper and deeper to try and stay cooler and cooler. And this is making a lot of chicks die because their parents are staying far too long away from them. So it's talking to people about how they can reduce emissions, or how they can change their diet or change their lifestyle, and also campaign for seabirds. Here we have a picture of me on a wildlife boat, a bit like what I was telling you about.
Ruby, somebody's asking about the birds. Is bird flu affecting them as much? As we were told, the puffins and kittiwakes have been affected badly. Somebody's asking.
Yeah, very good question. Bird flu is really impacting birds. I mean, do do you know gannets with the yellow heads and the black wings? Even if you don't, they're amazing. You should look them up after. They're the biggest seabird that we have, with a wingspan of over 2 meters. And where they nest is a place called Bass Rock. And if you look at the pictures from what they usually look like, how many are usually on the rock, and last year there was half the number of them. And actually a reserve near me has had to completely shut because of bird flu. So it is really, really impacting wild birds. And there are lots of steps being taken to try and resolve this. And conservationists are doing their absolute best. And you know what? Last summer, because it usually is a lot worse in the summer because all these seabirds come together to nest on islands. Last summer, we managed to track down the birds that were infected, remove them from the rest of the colony so that no one else was infected. It's a bit like lockdown, and how if you were positive for COVID, you take yourself away and isolate to not impact anyone else around you. That's kind of what's happening, and it is making a positive difference. So, but great question. And if you have any more questions about that, definitely just ping me an email afterwards and I can try and send some stuff over. But up on the top right, there's a picture of me swimming around. And although I'm not, doing something to the environment, I'm not picking up a bottle out of the sea. I think a big positive action to keep you passionate about why you care is to connect with nature and to connect with the reason that you fell in love with it in the first place. So for me, that's surfing and swimming and having put my goggles on and having a little look at all the shells and the fish under the sea. And it's about connecting with nature to make, once you come back up out the sea, you're like, this is why I love it so much, and this is why I want to protect it. Here I have a picture of me with some young people campaigning outside a parliament building, which is where they make all of the really important decisions about laws that protect nature. We were saying save nature and save the climate because they're both the same issue. When you think about it, one affects the other. There's me trying to take some ghost fishing gear is what it's called, like discarded fishing gear from the beach, which may end up, going on to entangle a seal, a little bit like the one I rescued down at the bottom here, which is a little 2-day-old seal pup that was taken away from its mum from some really severe weather conditions, which is also increasing from climate change. We have more reliable weather conditions. So yeah, that's how I take some positive actions towards nature and the marine environment in my own life. So hopefully that gave you a little bit of an idea about what I do, how I try to take action for nature, and how passionate I am about the sea. I'm very much a bit of a nerd, and that being a nerd about nature is a very good thing. So hopefully after today you can go away and think for yourself, how will I make a positive action for the ocean? And I'm just going to double check there's no questions, just because I can't see the comment section before I move on.
There's lots of really lovely comments coming in, which I'll share with you shortly. But it looks like lots of people are already doing things to help with the environment. Claire went litter picking at the coast last night, and they did a wellness walk and they paddled in the sea, which sounds lovely. People were asking about the Pacific garbage patch. Somebody said it's as big as Texas, which is huge. I think there was concerns about obviously places like the Sea Life centres. Somebody said they watched a program about getting washing machine companies to do filters on stop the microplastics going into the sea. They said as much as 70,000 pieces a week just from clothing. Somebody suggested should they take it's quite a lot, isn't it? And then somebody suggested taking colder, shorter showers perhaps as well to help.
Yeah, all brilliant suggestions. And actually that one you mentioned about microplastics, my partner does a lot of research with water health and soil quality, and in 100% of the bit gross poo samples from birds that he did and took to a lab to find out what they've been eating, 100% of them, there was plastic in their poo. And and microplastics. And do you know what the biggest microplastic was? It was from clothing, from coming out in our washing machines. And so a really great thing to do is to obviously buy secondhand, but to prevent the microplastics problem is to buy more natural organic materials like cotton and that side of things. So nothing synthetic and plasticky goes into our sea. But if you do have plastic clothing, all of us do. This is actually cotton and nylon. Not all of us are perfect, and that's another thing we need to really talk about, is that it's about progression, not perfection. So, but if you do have clothes that you want to try and stop all the fibers going into the sea, you can buy these little kind of, I don't know what they're called, but they're these little balls, and all you do is just throw it into the washing machine, and it absorbs all of the excess microplastics and microfibers that come out of your clothes, so that that they're not going down the drain into the sea, which is brilliant. I'll try and send you the link to that, so maybe you can get your parents to get one. I have one, and I don't know, how much it does, but knowing that it's doing something gives me good peace of mind. So
if we all did that would be huge, wouldn't it? If we said there's about 20 people live now, and there'll be maybe another 100 that come and watch later, and everybody got one of those balls and put it in their washing machines, already collectively we've saved so many bits of microplastic that would potentially go into the ocean and harm our ocean life.
Yeah, definitely. And it's so great to hear that all of you know so much. I mean the Great Pacific Garbage Patch, even that is the majority of that patch is fishing gear. So that's another thing to sorry, I'm losing my voice. And that's another thing to remember, is that a lot of the time we're told it's bottles and earbuds, but actually over 50% of the plastic in our oceans is fishing gear, and nearly all the microplastics in the sea come from fragments from nets. So if there's one thing that you can do, is to, if you do want to eat fish, look at maybe where you could get it from a better source, or try to cut it out, and that will also make a really big impact, although that's a big ask and a big lifestyle change to make, and it's obviously really awful that you have to ask people to make massive lifestyle changes in the first place. But I guess that's from kind of the impact that we've had on our planet. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that you can do in your own lives to make a massive difference. But hopefully that's all those questions answered. I've got a
brilliant
activity, which I know that you guys were doing anyway, as I've been told, which is World Oceans Day Art. So I've been asked to showcase as a keen illustrator, a few of my art bits and bobs. So I love watercolor, and that is I love the water, and I love the sea, and I love watercolor. So I like the way that they both kind of go together. And here you have some beautiful ocean colors. So I love sometimes not even having a plan and just dolloping colors on top of each other and seeing what happens. I love painting whales and seabirds. Whales, someone mentioned rays earlier. I love manta rays, so I love making ocean scenes this is actually with some acrylic paints, and seabirds and seals. This is so I actually, when I was living on Rathlin Island, met a little puffin couple even, and I call them Puff and Finn. Not very creative, but they're very cute. And I ended up drawing them because I loved them so much. So that's Puff and Finn right there. And this is a little seal. Don't even know who it is, but I got a picture off my phone and drew it. And here's some gannets, the ones I was talking about earlier that are really suffering from bird flu. That's gannets in the middle. We have some dolphins, and we've got some orca up here, or otherwise known as killer whales. That's more watercolor, really. So if you guys haven't tried that out, it's also the cheapest paint you can buy. If you have a watercolor palette, it will last you forever. It really will. I've not even ran out of the one I bought 5 years ago. And another challenge for you is to create something yourself that can perhaps spread awareness at the same time. So a few years ago, I illustrated a kids book for a friend of mine. I'm not sure if she sold quite a few copies already, and I'm not sure if they're on sale still at the moment, but I will just double check and let you know. But obviously, if you're interested in getting one, but it was all about how animals are suffering from the marine environment and how we can make a difference to help. So there's things like a goose here with a plastic cup on our head, and a whale entangled in some ocean fishing gear, and those sorts of things really that, you know, all happen. And there's actually a little drawing of a garbage patch out at sea here in one of the illustrations. So you know, from just drawing the problem so often you that's really emotive and quite emotional, and you can actually, you know, change a lot of people's opinions about things or spread some awareness from just your drawings. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed that talk, and thank you so much for having me again, and I hope you have a wonderful World Oceans Day. Obviously it's not all wonderful because there is a lot to sort out, there's a lot of problems we need to make right, but in terms of having a wonderful Oceans Day, I mean, get out to your local green or blue spaces, even if you're not near the sea. Why don't you watch a Blue Planet documentary? Why don't you draw the sea? Or if you are near the sea, go and have a little paddle, or even if you're near a pond, go enjoy that, because all of our water courses are all completely connected, and that's connected to the sea anyway. So anyway, thank you so much for watching that. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a brilliant rest of your day.
Thank you, Ruby. It's been absolutely wonderful having you with us today. And your presentation was fantastic. It's really thought-provoking, and I know I'm already thinking about some of the things that I can do to reduce. I don't live anywhere near the sea, but I know there's plenty that we can do. And I think I'm going to start by getting myself one of those balls. Do drop us a link of what one of those looks like. We'll give you a link to our socials. One last thing before you go, if people want to get in touch with you with questions and things, do you have an email address or a place where they can reach you?
Yeah, definitely. Well, if anyone here has Instagram, I have a little page called Ruby Free, which is just my name here. You should see on the screen, Ruby Free Wild. And I post all sorts of stuff about the environment on there. If you do want to contact me, I do have a work email, which is ruby.free@rspb.org.uk. But if it's something kind of not related to that, I do have another email, but I'm sure I can just give you that.
No, that's fine.
Anyway.
That's perfect.
Free Wild is my Instagram, and I love talking to people on there and connecting and doing lots of pictures and videos. So yeah, more than happy to chat on there. But thank you so much for having me. Yeah. And it's so great to read the section right now while I wasn't able to see it during the presentation, because you guys have been so lovely, and that's wonderful to see.
Brilliant. What I'll do, Ruby, is I'll give you links into our socials after this, and you'll be able to see all the comments and reply to them if you want to.
Brilliant. That'd be amazing. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.